The government called it unacceptable, Essex police mindless thuggery. But the protests that have taken place outside the Epping Hotel, understood to be housing asylum seekers, doesn't appear to be over. 6 people were arrested last night as violence escalated. It was a largely peaceful demonstration during the day, but then it later turned with bottles and smoke flares aimed at police vehicles. It comes after the arrest and charge of an asylum seeker on suspicion of alleged sexual assaults in town, just 8 days after arriving in the UK via boat. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Once again, the Bell Hotel was a flashpoint. The former pub and wedding reception venue is now a hostel for asylum seekers. This was the latest in a series of protests after a 38-year-old man was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl.
We are getting pushed by officers.
Police in riot gear used the powers of a dispersal order to clear Epping High Road. Essex Police described it as a peaceful protest which escalated into thuggery. Police vehicles were damaged. An officer from Norfolk had to be taken to hospital after being hit in the face by a bottle. To begin with, the demonstration included a large number of women and children. They chanted, "Save our kids." Save our kids. Lindsay, a mother of 3 who lives in Epping, explained why she joined in.
The people protesting were us, really. It's like Epping mums and dads, really. You know, as you can see, it's a very small town. Having a significant amount of men appear in our town is odd. It makes you go, who are they? Who's that? It's just loitering and leering, and we just don't feel safe.
On Thursday, 8 police officers were injured. The Essex force blamed the violence on a number of individuals who arrived at the scene intent on causing trouble. Yesterday, what appeared to be white supremacist leaflets were on show.
I put it on the extremes of politics, and it's really disappointing when you see that. There were people there the other evening, and we can see it quite clearly, who are there for all the wrong reasons. They're not there because they care passionately about Epping and want to see the right thing for Epping Town. They're there because they wanted a fight.
Another protest is planned for next Sunday and once again is likely to face a counter-demonstration.
It's very important that people in the community come together, even when terrible things happen, and say that scapegoating is not an answer. All of us want to keep our children safe. All of us want a community which is free from hazards.
Epping Council says it's been trying to get the hostel closed but has had no response from the Home Office. A Home Office spokesperson said there were now fewer asylum hotels than before the election.
And Simon, this has started in Epping, but it's starting to reach far further, isn't it?
Yes, not for the first time. Politicians are being forced to focus on the tensions between a local community and asylum seekers housed in that community. At a news conference in London today, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage suggested the political class simply didn't understand.
Don't underestimate the simmering anger and disgust that there is in this country that we are letting in every week, in fact some days, many hundreds of undocumented young males, many of whom come from cultures in which women and young girls are not even treated as second-class citizens.
The Prime Minister's official spokesman didn't respond directly to that, but instead referenced those protesters who broke the law, saying the government wouldn't tolerate criminal violence.
OK, Simon, thanks very much.
Good evening. Bosses in the capital's hospitality industry have told ITV London that visitor numbers will go down if a tourist tax is introduced. The debate was reignited today after reports the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is keen to give cash-strapped councils the power to charge tourists for hotel stays. It's something London's mayor has previously suggested he'd be open to. But what about hotel owners and the millions of people who visit the capital every year? Our political correspondent, Simon Harris, has been finding out.
London has a worldwide reputation, not just as a tourist hotspot, but also a price hotspot. It's an expensive city to visit. Just ask anyone outside the tourist magnet that is Buckingham Palace.
We wanted to visit London because it's a beautiful city, but yeah, it's expensive.
The cost of the transports and the trains and tubes is much higher in comparison with Italy's transportation.
What surprised me in the opposite way was museums, because most of them are for free.
So would a tourist tax, an extra charge on hotel beds, make a difference?
It's just going to put people off. I think it's just too much, and there comes a point in time where you go somewhere else, right?
I think it's something that if you want to have the upkeep of the city and the sites and the experiences, I think you have to keep up with the times and the money.
I'd probably be against it because I think it's expensive enough to travel, especially with a family.
The Boundary Hotel in Shoreditch was designed by Terence Conran. It has 2 restaurants, 17 rooms and 80 employees, but not as many guests as before COVID. Richard, the head of operations, wonders how the business would cope with a bed tax on top of other recent cost increases.
We have business rates that are going up. We're paying full VAT 20%. UK duty tax has gone up twice. We have national insurance increase and minimum wage increase. As a hospital business, those are just increase.
But from some politicians, there's growing enthusiasm for an additional levy. Sadiq Khan tried to convince the Chancellor to let him introduce a tourist tax in London earlier this year, but she said no. Now it seems Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, also backs the idea of a tax as a source of extra income for local councils. A City Hall spokesperson told us a modest overnight accommodation levy, similar to other international cities, would boost our economy, deliver growth and help cement London's reputation as a global tourism and business destination. The hospitality trade begs to differ.
You do see other cities like Venice, Barcelona, Paris, they have tourism taxes, but ultimately they have far lower taxes on their hospitality businesses in the first place. So in Barcelona, a tourist would spend less on VAT, tourism tax, bed tax, city tax, state tax than our rate of VAT altogether.
For now, the Treasury appears to be resisting the calls for a tourist tax, but with her budget looming, the Chancellor needs to balance the books.
So, Simon, Sadiq Khan's keen for this to be introduced. What about other politicians as well?
Well, there's clearly something of a disagreement between Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, over whether it should happen. But if it does go ahead, if the government does approve it, there could be another tussle, in London at least, over who gets to spend the money and where it goes. As we heard, the Mayor's very keen on the idea, but he would like to levy the tax and administer it, in other words, decide how it's spent. But the London boroughs are equally certain that they'd like to have a significant say in who gets the money.
Gosh, of course. And talking of the Mayor, there's speculation today, isn't there, of a future prospective candidate for the London Mayor?
Yes, we're going to see a return to the front line by a former London Assembly member, James Cleverly. The former Foreign Secretary, former Home Secretary, one-time Tory leadership contender, has agreed to join Kemi Badenoch's shadow cabinet, we believe as the shadow housing secretary. But interestingly, James Cleverly has recently been touted as the possible front-runner in the race to be the Conservative candidate for mayor in 2028, i.e. Sadiq Khan or whoever the Labour candidate's main rival is. He's certainly got popularity among Conservative Party members in London, so watch this space.
Indeed, yes. Thanks very much indeed, Simon.
Good evening. The Chief Constable of Essex Police has refused to resign today after criticism of the force's handling of protests outside a migrant hotel. Demonstrators gathered outside the Bell Hotel in Epping last week after an asylum seeker was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl just days after arriving in the UK. Criticism of the police, though, came when footage showed officers escorting pro-migrant protesters to the hotel, where anti-migrant campaigners were also gathered. At a press conference earlier, Ben Julian Harrington rejected calls for his dismissal, saying this is not about me, this is about the communities of Essex. While political correspondent Simon Harris has the latest.
An adult male.
6 days after protests outside a hotel housing asylum seekers turned violent, it's police tactics which are now being questioned. When counter-demonstrators arrived in Epping, they were allowed to walk along the high road towards the main protest, seemingly with a police escort.
The police brought them to our peaceful protest, and they came fully ready and were calling us fascist pigs, oi oi Savaloys, whatever that means. And it was just a horrible thing, so we just retreated back and we continued our peaceful protest here.
The Bell Hotel in Epping was quiet today, but more protests are planned. They were sparked by the arrest of a 38-year-old asylum seeker who's alleged to have assaulted a local schoolgirl. Today, the Chief Constable of Essex faced questions. Why did your officers escort counter-protesters, some wearing masks, towards what appeared to be a largely peaceful demonstration?
Well, officers, people have got the right to turn up and protest where they're peaceful and lawful, and that is exactly what they'll do. They had committed no crimes at that stage. and of course officers properly were monitoring those groups to ensure that there was no confrontation and disorder.
But there was, and today the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage demanded the Chief Constable's resignation.
Essex Police caused the disturbances. What on earth were Essex Police thinking? Is it that they just hate so much ordinary residents determined to stand up for their own rights?
But the Chief Constable said he wouldn't resign.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And this is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex.
The local council has called on the Home Office to move the asylum seekers out of the Bell. Reports began to emerge on social media yesterday that some of the residents had been transferred to a hotel in Docklands. But the Home Office insisted today asylum seekers are not being removed from the Bell Hotel at this point. But that didn't stop protests outside the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf, even though government sources said there were no asylum seekers there yet. Police were on duty outside today, and Tower Hamlets confirmed plans to use the hotel. The local MP said people in Tower Hamlets would welcome them.
We are a proud constituency of Sanctuary, where we have welcomed people from all walks of life, from all over the world. And we stand proudly with refugees who are seeking legal rights to claim asylum.
In Essex, the police said 10 people were now under arrest following the protests at the Bell.
Simon, more protests planned for tomorrow, so tensions don't appear to be alleviated really at all.
No, not at all. At least one protest we know about tomorrow, and that's the same group that have been protesting already. They call themselves Mainly Mums, worried about the safety of their children. They plan to meet at the Bell Hotel and then walk along Epping High Road to the headquarters of Epping Forest District Council, where there is a council meeting. At this stage, it's not clear whether there's going to be any counter-demonstration. There will be a big police presence, I'm sure. I think what the police are more concerned about at the moment is what is planned for Sunday, when, again, those who call themselves the local mums will be protesting, but this time there is likely to be counter-demonstrations.
All right, OK, Simon, thank you. Good evening. Their presence in the capital has been dwindling for years, and today the Mayor defended plans to shut down even more police station counters across London. Figures released today show that violent crime and theft in the capital are continuing to rise, with shoplifting up a staggering 53%. But staff shortages and a plummeting budget are being blamed for the loss of brick and mortar police resources. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Rohit has been behind the counter of his convenience store for 21 years. He doesn't need official figures to tell him shoplifting is the curse of his trade. The security cameras at his shop in Harrow see and record everything.
Scary in the sense that before we used to call the police, but now police is also said anything below £50, don't bother to call us. So basically we have to lumber with the loss or just carry on.
The latest figures from the Office for National Statistics show knife crime in London rose by 9% last year. The number of sex offences increased by 10%, but the biggest jump was shoplifting, up by 53%.
No matter what the value of the item stolen from a shop, we want shops to report it, and the police will now take action.
The police are about to make it harder to report a crime by closing front counters.
One of the things the police have done is look at where the demand is in terms of front counters and where people are reporting it. Very few shopkeepers that I speak to, in fact nobody I've spoken to, reports a crime by going to a front desk.
Front counters are a casualty of the Met's £260 million budget shortfall. There are 32 London police stations open 24/7, one in each borough. But there could be just 8 front counters staffed around the clock, one for every 3 boroughs. 11 of the 32 stations would switch to reduced opening hours, but 13 would shut their front counters. The Met says most crimes are reported over the phone, online or to officers in the street. Just 5% come from people going into a police station. But that's still almost 50,000 crimes a year. In his 2024 election manifesto, the Mayor promised, "I'll continue to ensure the Met is able to effectively respond to the public, including maintaining a 24-hour police front office counter in every borough." But when I put it to the Mayor he was breaking a manifesto pledge, he batted it away.
In terms of operational matters, I'm not going to undermine the Commissioner. The Commissioner's got 3 criteria when it comes to front counters. 1, resources. 2, funding. 3, the demand.
These front desks are very important, especially for people that are more vulnerable, some people that want to go and see police officers, and the elderly who don't have access to the internet. And when you look at the problems that we are having now with shoplifting going through the roof, we need more police on the streets, and we need to have access to police with these front counters open.
The Met said no decisions had been made on which of the 32 police stations will lose their front counters. Simon Harris, ITV News, Stratford.